Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first of many videos I intend to do about roofing repairs. So today I want to talk to you and walk you through a very simple problem, but unfortunately a very hard repair we came across over the last few years. Now, sadly, this won't teach you much as far as gutter repairs or metal roof repairs, as it's only exploring one potential issue, although it's a common one, but it will kind of help you get the idea of how roof leaks and how roofers think. I really want to stress that perspective because it can be a time saver, it can be a money saver, and honestly, it could save a lot of disputes in the future. So I got a call from a customer of mine a while back ago complaining that he had his gutter leaking and it was causing the wood that they stored outside to get wet and ice to build up in front of their store. Now, of course, everyone's first instinct is, well, you're in Colorado, this is the Rocky Mountains, why not just move where it doesn't snow? But of course, you really can't tell the customer that. So I got a little history on the building. They had a brand new gutter, it's less than a year old. The water was freezing underneath the seam, creating a puddle of ice and snow at the door. They couldn't really provide me any photos of the site. The one I'm showing you right now is the only photo they sent me. I kind of had a feeling before I got there that this wasn't necessarily a gutter issue, but I was a little bit more sure of that once I got there on site. So let me show you the next photo. This one I took. So this is snow and ice and a bit of slush at the base of the wood. Now this is near their front entryway. The first thing I want to stress is that if a gutter is leaking through the seam, it's going to melt. It's going to be water, not snow. So this could have been a wind-driven snow. I've actually had a lot of customers, in fact I have at least a dozen every year, that call me up and want to complain. They want to go after their roofer. They think a new roof is bad because they've got snow falling in front of their doors and it's causing ice to build up. I cannot stress that snow is snow. It's going to get where it goes. It's wind driven. I don't mean to sound mean about it, but honestly, when you hear it 50, 60 times, and it's literally just they don't want to shovel their own snow or they don't want to put out snow melt, it's a bit ridiculous. And unfortunately, the mentality is out there. So now I'm going to show you a little bit more of the issue. I'm going to start off with the zoomed out photo. Or zoomed in, sorry. So what's happening here is that we've got snow flowing over the top. Even looking at it from a distance, you can still see it. And that it's directly over where all the ice is, where all the snow buildup is, and so on. So what was happening is that on these metal roofs, the snow builds up. Once that metal heats up, the snow becomes detached from it and slides down. When it slides down that much, that heavy, it impacts the gutter. You can see how there's some kinks and how there's some warping here. That should look like a straight line. Instead, it's actually quite warped. And once that impacts into the gutter, it kind of clumps up, creating kind of a high density environment there for the snow filling in the gutter. Next clump falls down from the main roof, keeps going, and once it's built up enough in that gutter that it can't hold anymore, it just keeps flowing. An object in motion stays in motion after all. And it ends up sometimes flying directly over top of the gutter, sometimes resting by luck on top of the gutter and being allowed to drip down, both of which were happening here. So it wasn't a roof leak for sure, and it definitely isn't a gutter leak because it's not the seam leaking, it's the gutter overflowing. So the question, of course, being how to stop this. So the first thing we need to look at is, can we reduce the amount of snow coming in? So we've got snow buildup from 3 different roofs, all kind of accumulating in the same area. This one not so much, but definitely that upper roof accumulates onto the lower roof. So we need to find a way to reduce the snow. What about increasing the drainage in the gutter or reducing the impact of the snow itself? Now, for the first one, snow stops, snow guards, they work, but there are different types and each one of them works in a unique way. So in this case, these bars, these snow guards, what these prevent is piles bigger than an inch, inch and a half, 2 inches, depending on how it's set up and what kind and what your roof is. And in this case, once the snow built up an inch and a half, if it were to fall, this snow guard would help break off the top piece or to slow it down. Unfortunately, that specific type of snow stop, while helpful, would not solve a problem like this. We've got too much snow. Even if I widened out the gutter, it would only allow it to just catch more snow. So while that helped, it minimized the issue. It definitely didn't fix it. Another solution is, and you'll hear this a lot in the Rockies, what about heat tape inside the gutter and downspout? Well, it sounds like a great idea. This is an open style downspout. Does anyone see any ice? No, because it's clogging in one spot. And unfortunately, you kind of have to think of this in terms of an igloo. An igloo will keep you warm when you're inside of it. Well, why isn't that heat seeping out? Why isn't the cold coming in from the outside? Why isn't that igloo melting if it's warm inside of it? Well, it's because water, ice, especially high density snow and ice, is actually insulating. So that heat tape slowly melts the base of the snow, which it actually melts it so slow in this case that rather than that water going down and draining off, it's actually being sucked back up into the snow via capillary action and freezing the base of it, essentially creating an igloo or an ice dam out of reach of where the heat tape functions. So heat tape can be made a lot better, and I'll explain how soon, because that is one of the solutions here. But heat tape is not a catch-all solution, and a lot of people try to sell it as one. So I want to explore a different type of snow guard that was used. So this is just a basic bar, sometimes called a, I believe this was an S5 color guard, would be its technical name. And so there are different types of snow stops. You see, of course, your L-shaped ones that have 2 or 3 screw holes in them. I don't like those because the screw holes, as the snow impacts, it starts to rip the screws out. Now, there are scenarios where those are the best case. This definitely would not be one of them. Then there's stick-on ones. Yes, they can't afford as high of an impact as the screw-on ones, but if they get ripped off, they're not going to damage the metal. And that you can get them in shapes like a triangle. And so why would you want a triangle? Well, when you're hitting that L bracket, it doesn't necessarily break up the snow as well. Sometimes it just catches a lot of snow and builds it up. With the triangle, it'll break it up and force it to part. So with those little ones, we can actually get a lot more done than with a bigger one that was flat, because it's going to break it out and help divert the snow, or disperse the snow, sorry. So as it disperses in the gutter, that would allow the heat tape to melt it quicker, but unfortunately it's still going to clump up. So this was a bit of a multi-solution here that unfortunately didn't permanently fix the issue, but minimized it. The first one was putting those little triangle snow guards in between. I would post a link, but honestly, depending on what you have, depends on what you need. I don't want to give anyone one product and first off advertise something that may not work for them, but I don't want them looking at things as a catch-all solution. I see a lot of roofers out there that are diehard about a project, usually that they produce or that they get special bonuses on, selling so much or referring people. I'm not that kind of guy. I believe that every problem is unique, every roof is unique and should be treated as such. So I'm not going to post, I'm happy to work with you. If you send me an image of your roof, I'll send you back what I think is the best snow guard for you based on where you're at. More than happy to do that. So that was the first solution, was adding the snow guard. Now the second one is the heat tape. The heat tape that was in there wasn't functioning at the time. It turns out it was hooked up to a breaker that, as best as we could tell, had been out for years, and just nobody had noticed. So we got the heat tape turned back on, but we moved it around. One thing you can do, especially if you live in an area where you risk the snow clumping up like this, is every time you hit a strap in the gutter, just wrap the heat tape loosely around it. Now, I'm not talking tightly, just a round open loop. This helps disperse the heat not only at the base, but throughout the snow system. It can really add in some pockets for water to drain around those straps. It definitely helps the system more than just running a tape flat across the bottom. I highly recommend it if you have a more flexible heat tape, which most of them are, to gently coil it. And don't do a tight loop, just do a loose open loop like you would with an extension cord around every gutter strap. And that was kind of the second solution. Now, third solution is to increase drainage in here. Unfortunately, there wasn't much we could do when it comes to clumping to increase the drainage there. We did work on this upper downspout here to reduce the amount of water that got into this lower one. And we also added some extra up on the upper section to help catch some snow and block it. Additionally, by adding those extra snow guards on the top portion, when the snow hits it, it would be broken up more and it would slow down the amount on the lower roof. Like I said, this video isn't necessarily about the repairs of the gutter or the metal roof, because unfortunately there is no solution in this case. A metal roof in an area prone to heavy snow is always going to have this kind of issue. You can do 1,000 things to minimize it. I had one guy try and go out there and raise the front edge of the gutter, which is actually, most people don't realize this is a major code violation. You can never have the front end of your gutter above the back end of your gutter. And the reason for this is that in the event that the water gets clogged in there, it needs to have somewhere to overflow. If you allow it to overflow inside the building, you're rotting the fascia, you're rotting the inside of the building. Eventually this can result in system failure. Your gutter may fall off, your building may collapse, you may get mold inside your walls. There's a lot of ways that can go wrong. So you always want the front of your gutter to either be flush with the backside or an inch lower is usually the recommendation. But you absolutely, per code, cannot have it higher than the back end of your downspout. So unfortunately, this matched front and back. The difference was about a little less than a half an inch. So there's absolutely nothing we could do in this case as far as raising the gutter up without creating more risk than what was already there. So I just want to thank you for your time. I hope that you learned a little bit. I hope you definitely see it from a new perspective now. And I just want to say thank you. Hope you can like and subscribe. I plan on doing a lot more videos in the future, especially ones that get a little more in-depth and teach you how to do some basic repairs to reduce your costs. But for right now, I just want to get that perspective out there. Not everything above your head is a roof. Not everything from a pipe is a plumber. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, a lot of reasons that can go wrong. And if we can all work together, we can help improve not just our own roofs, but the general quality of roofs around us.